Yes, I understand that reviews for Star Wars The Last Jedi are already popping up everywhere, but guess what? I haven't seen it yet. I see movies in advance all the time, but Star Wars? No. Hell, I felt lucky to get into Justice League. So sit tight, I'm seeing Star Wars Thursday and or Friday, and I'll have my review up by this weekend. In the meantime, I bring you this super late video. Marvel's The Punisher. And I'm sorry my review of The Punisher is so late. I've had a pretty busy life these past few weeks. A lot of shit's been happening, you know, end of the year type stuff and personal stuff. But I finally finished The Punisher yesterday, so I finally bring you my review. So let's talk about The Punisher. So The Punisher is another Marvel Netflix show in the line of Daredevil, Jessica Jones, The Defenders. Frank Castle, aka The Punisher, made his debut in Daredevil Season 2, played wonderfully by Jon Bernthal. Let me ask you something. And everyone was like, yeah, he should get his own show. So now he's got his own show, and I was really looking forward to it. Why? Because the Punisher has always been such an interesting character to me. He's an anti-hero, straight up. He's like the definition of anti-hero. Because he is willing to do the one thing that a lot of superheroes are not. That is kill people. He had a line in Daredevil Season 2 where he's like, you hit him and they get back up. I hit him, they stay down. So for the Punisher's own show, I wanted one simple thing. I wanted to see Frank Castle get bloody vengeance on everyone who did him wrong. That's all. I don't care about the context. I don't care who he does it to. I just want to see his vengeance. And this show certainly delivers that, along with a few more things. First of all, the action is amazing in this show. It is pretty much what I wanted. When Frank Castle throws down, it is so brutal. It's awesome. Because Frank Castle was in the military. He's a Marine, so he knows how to use a gun. He knows how to fight. And just watching him do that is so gratifying to me. Jon Bernthal still kills it as Frank Castle, in my opinion. But of course, there are some other characters in here. First off, there's David Lieberman, aka Micro. He and Frank form this sort of reluctant partnership because they both want the same thing, essentially. But Frank Castle is one of those lone wolf, I work alone kind of guys. But ultimately, I really like the partnership that these two have. They banter back and forth. It's kind of comedic, but it works for a show like The Punisher. Because there are some laughs in here, but it was just natural, you know, like the conversation would go on and like, oh yeah, that's kind of funny. Just the interaction between the two I really liked. It felt solid. Then there's Dina Madani, played by Amber Rose Riva. First off, let me just get this out of the way. She is smoking hot. God damn. But she works for Homeland Security and she's after Frank Castle, you know, like, the world apparently believes that Frank Castle is dead, but she's like, no, he's alive. I'm gonna get him. I liked her because she had moxie, but her story arc is one of those ones I was like, alright, you know, it's happening, but I'm not in it all the time. Her thing with Homeland Security and the whole investigative aspect of the show, that's the part that kind of bored me here. I'll get to that later, though. One of my favorite characters in the show, though, is Billy Russo. Those of you who know your stuff will know that in the Punisher comics, he's a villain called Jigsaw. In this show, he's kind of an old friend of Frank Castle's. They were in the same military unit together, and this is where we get to what I really like about the show, which is that this show touches on some topics that I feel are really important today, like the pressures of coming back from war after having served. I like seeing how having served in the military affects certain people after they've come home. Like, how do you readjust to normal life? Or maybe you want to go back out there and do more shit. This show shows you that for some people, it can get really dark. Some people just lose their minds. For some reason, I really like seeing that. I'm like, wow, that's dark, but it's realistic. That happens in real life. You know, Frank Castle comes home from being in the military and he still acts like he's at war. I don't know. To me, that's just fascinating. Another topic I feel this show covers that is relevant is gun violence. I try to keep my nose out of the news because, like, politics and stuff that really doesn't interest me. Plus, I just don't want to piss anyone off. But the show does touch on, like, should we have the right to bear arms? The show delves into that, and I found it really interesting. So I liked it when the show touched on those topics, and I liked it when the show focused on Frank Castle's character and his mission. But just like all these Marvel Netflix shows, man, there were some parts where I was just, alright, it's on in the background. I'm doing other shit. I really couldn't care less about what's going on screen right now. Some boring parts where two characters are talking with each other, I'm like, yeah, whatever. This is not why I'm watching the show. I'm watching the show for the Punisher. I want to see the Punisher. But again, I give the show credit for going there because they do tell the complete story. Delving into Frank Castle's world is what the show is supposed to do. So I give the show props for doing that, but I just couldn't help but be bored in a few scenes. Maybe if I were more into politics or security or whatever, I might have been more into it, but I'm not. I'm into action, and the action in this show really blew me away. I did really like the music in the show, however. And it's funny, it was scored by Tyler Bates. I was like, wow, that's different. Or I thought it was different at first. He scored the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and you know, those scores are completely orchestral. The music in The Punisher is very like acoustic guitar, which I felt really worked for the show. Then I found out that Tyler Bates is the lead guitarist for Marilyn Manson. I didn't know that. Shit, that's cool. Then it made sense as to why he was picked to score the show. Awesome. In the end, The Punisher was really cool. I loved how it delved into Frank Castle's world and what it's all about. I liked how it dealt with relevant topics. I loved the music, but the highlight of the show for me was the bloody action. So much red in this show. It's what I wanted. Definitely worth watching if you're a Marvel fan, if you haven't already. Again, sorry for bringing you this review so late. So, Marvel's The Punisher. Have you watched it? What did you think about it? Where does it rank in your your Marvel Netflix hierarchy. Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe.